Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Game Development, Game Design Bootcamp event. We are going to kick off the information here in just a couple of minutes. Before I do, I guess I should first ask, can everybody see me okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Just maybe give me a thumbs up or a message in the chat off to the side there. Yes, amazing, awesome. I always do an audio and video check before, but inevitably as technology goes, sometimes that changes in the second before I go live. So, well, welcome everyone. We are going to kick off the session here shortly. I'm just going to kind of share a little bit about the room that we're in here. So, you guys found the chat log in the bottom right-hand corner. If you notice beside that, there's a questions tab down there too. If you guys have any questions for me or for the guest speaker throughout the presentation, just go ahead and throw your questions into the questions tab, and then we're going to do some live Q&A at the end there. So if we don't answer your questions right away, I promise we're doing it intentionally because we do want to loop back with you at the end and kind of go through those. The other thing to note is that this session is fully recorded. So if anybody is looking to go back and look at the information afterwards, if you're unable to attend or if you come in late, I'll repeat this a few times in case we've got some people that trickle in a few minutes here, but you will get a full recording of this session after it is finished here today. So you'll be able to go back and review everything. I'm going to have some, there's also a polls tab down there. I think I threw one or two in for now, and I'm going to add in some more polls a little bit later on for you guys too. The session is going to be about an hour to an hour and a half. Usually this part, like I'm going to do the intro here for just a few minutes. I'm going to invite the speaker up on stage, and then we're just going to do some kind of live Q&A together. And once we get through that, we'll do some audience Q&A. So it's probably about 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how long we talk for. So that's the session here. You can share in the chat too. Actually, usually invite people to share where they are joining us from. Always curious where people are logging in from around the world, Canada, US. I am personally from Alberta. I live in Calgary, Alberta right now, but I am originally from Ontario. I've lived in BC. I've hit 3 different provinces living in this country so far. Canada, Toronto, New York, Vernon. Nice. I've been to all these places so far. I always do that to check and see how many of the spots I've been to. Maryland, I've never been to. Toronto, been to a lot. Chilliwack, Orlando, been to both of those. Bowmanville, I have not been to. Well, cool. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining from all over Pembroke. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Old Toronto, awesome. Northern Ireland. Wow, I love that. I definitely have not been to Ireland. That's on my list too. So, well, welcome, guys. I'll go ahead and get this session started here, so I'm not just sitting here telling you about the locations that I've traveled to around the world. I'm going to make the presentation screen bigger because we don't need to look at me anymore. And I will go ahead and kick this off. So, like I said, I'm hosting today's event. My name is Tyler Trapp. I'm also the marketing event manager at Circuit Stream. I've been with this company for just over 3 years. I've done a few different roles since I started, but I've been running the events here for over a year with Circuit Stream and with our university partners. And I'm not inviting him up quite yet, but we will have a guest speaker here joining us in just a few minutes. His name is Julian. He's one of our part-time auxiliary game bootcamp instructors. He teaches the Game Design Bootcamp, but he's also a level designer at Ubisoft Montreal. So I'm going to ask him some questions about the courses. You can share some details about kind of the industry and what he does, but you guys are welcome to ask him any questions you like or ask us any questions about the courses. But you can also feel free to ask him questions about his current role at Ubisoft or his personal, his career, whatever. We can kind of answer all that stuff with you guys here today. And the session today is going to be showing you how you can break into the game industry with no background experience. A lot of people ask us that very regularly, so I've decided to kind of share that sort of messaging in my presentations to let you guys know that it's absolutely possible to do. In fact, Julian's probably a good example of part of that too. He can share some of his experience. But I'll start off here by talking a little bit about Circuit Stream. So Circuit Stream began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, and creators. And we're now a leading provider of technology learning in game development, game design, product management, augmented virtual reality, software development, so on and so forth. We also have a whole bunch of youth courses. We just expanded this year. We've got youth courses now starting, I think, as young as, how young was it? I think it might be 9 to 12 and then 12 to 18. There's two different tiers, but they cover everything from AI to finance to game development, game design. So if anybody in the crowd knows anybody that's a little younger, a little too young, or maybe in high school still, but they're trying to get a little bit of a jump on technology education or finance or business, healthcare, we've got a bunch of different courses there. So, and they are available through our university partners too, through like UFT, UBC, McGill. So feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions about that. Our main goal is to bridge academics with industry to shape real-world experiences and to teach the skills of the future through innovative learning experiences. So you may be wondering, how do we achieve this? We actually do this predominantly through project-based learning. So when we are designing our curriculums, we begin with employer data and research. And then based on that, we kind of utilize that to create our experiences and our projects and provide our students with career-ready skills once they're going through and completing our courses. So it's a little bit about how we do it. Taking this approach allows us to partner with top universities in North America, providing technology education for both teens and adult learners, and even a little bit younger than teens now with our youth courses. I think the youth courses focus on like Roblox and creating like a Mario game from scratch. So it's really cool. Things I would have absolutely loved when I was younger. And in fact, we are the only Canadian technology education company who is currently partnered with these universities to provide these types of boot camps and courses. So just a little bit about us. Because we rely on industry and employer data information to create the educational content, our students develop in-demand applied skills that actually matter in market. This prepares them to seamlessly transition into the workforce and confidently tackle real-world challenges. It's very common that we hear people say that they get thrusted out into the industry after doing 4 years of university and they feel completely unprepared because they spent most of their time with their, a pencil and a paper or, fingers on a laptop, I guess these days, but not so much tackling real world projects and challenges. So that's something we focus on very heavily through our courses here. We also iterate on our course materials consistently in order to provide our students with the most up-to-date programs and tools. On the screen here, you can see a bit of a snapshot of some of the tools that are used in our game development and our game design boot camps. These, of course, include both Unity and Unreal, which I'll expand on a little bit more. There's more than just these tools, but this is a really good snapshot of some of the biggest tools or the ones we're using predominantly, I guess, in the courses there. Circuit Stream also takes pride in the consistent and positive feedback and reviews we receive from our students. So just some stuff to share on the screen there. Hello, Lauren. See you in the chat. Structured bootcamps maintain high quality, consistent teaching standards and provide organized curriculums that allow for smooth progression from basic to advanced concepts. So it's worth to note, and we'll get into it in a minute here too, but all of our boot camps are beginner friendly. We don't really have any education available through Circuit Stream that starts at an advanced level. It certainly tackles advanced concepts as you work through our courses, but they're all beginner friendly. So kind of follows the standard layout of a boot camp, I guess. But for anybody who's interested, you certainly don't have to have any sort of prior experience when you're jumping into courses like these. Students in boot camps benefit from direct feedback and from experienced instructors, which is crucial for grasping and understanding complex skills and overcoming learning hurdles. And so I mentioned Unity before, and a lot of people would probably know what Unity is, but if people don't, then I can share a little bit more here too. Unity is the primary tool that we use in our game development bootcamp. It is one of the world's leading platforms for creating and operating interactive real-time 3D content. You can use it to create games, visualizations, immersive experiences, and more. As you can see on screen, 70% of the top 1,000 mobile games were made with Unity, and there are Unity creators located all around the world. And these are just a few examples of some games made using Unity. Some recognizable ones here for sure: Pokemon Go, Beat Saber, Monument Valley, just to name a few. Fall Guys, Among Us. I've played lots of these, especially over COVID. I played quite a few of these too. And then for Unreal, why learn the Unreal Engine? Unreal is the primary tool that we use in our Game Design Bootcamp. It was designed by Epic Games in 1998. Anybody who's been around for that long in gaming might remember Unreal Tournament, which is going back a little ways. That was one of my favorite games when I was in elementary school, going into high school, I guess. But not to really give my age away to everybody in here, I guess. But over 50% of next-gen games are currently being built in the Unreal Engine. And like I said, with Unity, just on screen, you can see some examples of some of the games that were created in Unreal. Fortnite, of course, is huge. A lot of these games are quite recognizable. Fortnite's another one that I dabble in every once in a while. And now I'm going to take a quick look at some of the career opportunities in the game industry. Becoming a game developer designer can be a rewarding career choice for individuals who are passionate about gaming, those who have a flair for creative and interactive experiences, problem solving, and technology. On screen, you can see some of the top reasons why people would choose to work as game developers and designers. And I'm going to pause here real quick while I have a screen up with some stats on it. In case anybody join this session after I said it initially here, just a heads up, this will be fully recorded. So if anybody is looking for information afterwards, we are going to send out a recording of the full session. So feel free to take notes, screenshots, whatever you like, but you don't have to. You can kind of sit back and relax too, and you will get a recording of this afterwards. So in the US, there are over 3,000 game studios employing over 300,000 people. And in Canada, there's been tremendous growth over the last few years with over 900 active game studios. That number is a 35% increase since just 2019, which is crazy. Not only that, the game industry contributed over $5 billion to Canada's GDP, which is a 29% increase over just the last 4 years. So as you can see, obviously tons of potential in the industry, with the global video game market revenue projected to hit $385 billion this year. As a game designer, you'll have the power to shape exciting new games. The average salary for game designers is $120 per year, 120,000, I should say, and that stat is for both US and for Canada. There are a range of job titles in this field. We've added some on the left there. So basically, when you kind of complete a course, whatever it may be, and you're looking at working in the industry, we usually encourage people to not just look for game designer roles, because there's going to be a lot of other titles that would, fall under a game designer umbrella, or might even not, but would be within the same industry and would utilize the same skills, and you could qualify for those positions too. Oftentimes people, when they're looking to break in for the first time, they're just looking to break into companies, gaming companies, studios, and they want to get any sort of role that's going to utilize the skills that they just learned. So level designers, system designers, game designers, even titles without designer in it. There's lots of different things you can look for. So we offer career support through our courses, and the career team would obviously be able to give more details on that if you were doing education with us. But just as a general rule, make sure you're not limiting yourself to just look for game development or game design roles, because there's a lot more that you would qualify for. Currently, there are over 8,000 job openings for game developers in the US alone, and the average salary is sitting at $121,000 annually. Same thing here, game engineers, game developers, game programmers. There's tons of different titles that you could have working in the game development area without actually being called a game developer too. So. All right. And then these are just a few of the many companies that hire for positions, the positions that I've mentioned in the previous slides. Many large, well-known companies like EA Games, Rockstar, Epic, but there's also a ton of other companies, like smaller ones, indie companies, indie studios like Cloudhead, Extremely OK Games, and they are hiring in this space as well. One thing I usually recommend to people is, if you are, again, early kind of launching out, looking for new opportunities, don't just apply at Epic and EA. And, if you grew up playing games in a studio and your ultimate goal is to go work at that studio, like go work at EA or Riot Games, whatever the case may be, that's an amazing goal and you could absolutely achieve it. But when you are very first kind of breaking out the gate and you have no experience other than education, oftentimes the opportunities you're going to find might be at smaller studios. You might find some internships, paid, unpaid. You might get some contract work. But basically, there's going to be a lot of these smaller studios who are going to be looking for cheaper opportunities to bring in developers and designers. And it's a really good opportunity for you to gain experience and for them to get some work, not paying the full rate that you'd have to do through like a large gaming company. So just something, little advice I always say to kind of broaden your scope when you're looking for jobs, and don't just apply at EA, even if that's your ultimate goal. Try and find some other opportunities first there, or as well, like also apply at EA too, just in case, because you never know. There's also a lot of top companies hiring for remote positions in 2025. We get this question a lot. The nature of our education is that it is taught remotely. All of our courses are online. We are partnered with schools like McGill and University of Toronto and UBC, but aside from our youth courses, we don't teach any of them in person. So with that, we end up with a lot of students who complete the courses and they are in remote locations and they're curious about career opportunities. Like, do I have to move to a big city? Do I have to leave where I am? Or is it a possibility for me to find work right from where I'm at? And it's hard to say these days. At one point years ago, I would have said it's a lot more difficult to find remote work than in person. During COVID, post-COVID, the world's kind of changed quite a bit. This week alone, I went through and I added all these logos onto this slide just yesterday. These are all companies with current posted remote positions that are hiring for developers and designers. So, and this is just a snapshot. I probably could have had 17 slides with logos on it if I really covered everything. But my goal here was just to kind of share some of the more recognizable companies with you guys and let you know that there are still a ton of remote positions. So if anyone is in the crowd and they're like, hey, like this is something I want to do, but I don't live in a big city, and I thought that was going to be an obstacle. Just, kind of want to let you know that there are certainly opportunities for those folks too. So, all right. And now I'm just going to talk briefly about the boot camps here before I bring the guest speaker up. So the two boot camps we're focused on today is the Game Design Bootcamp and the Game Development Bootcamp. The Design Bootcamp is designed for those who want to enter the industry as a designer or want to establish their own company, utilize their game skills in their current roles, etc. The great thing about the bootcamp is that it's project-based, as I mentioned previously. So you'll gain practical skills while working on real-world projects throughout. Over the course of the 30 weeks, you'll learn to analyze game design elements, conceive gameplay concepts, design game mechanics, create functioning game prototypes, and test novel gameplay ideas. You'll also learn about the role of a game designer and its various specializations and how they fit into game production. And just a shout out, he's not up on stage yet, but Julian is also a game designer. He's got skills on both sides. But if anybody in the crowd really wants to kind of ask somebody some real world questions about what it's like to be working as a game designer, you're going to have somebody from Ubisoft up on stage in just a couple minutes for that. And then in terms of this course, you'll also learn about the role of game designers, the various specializations, and how they fit into video game production overall. Now for the Game Development Bootcamp, it's similarly, it's for people who are looking to break in as a developer as opposed to a designer, starting their own companies, people looking to incorporate this into their current roles. Both of them are completely beginner friendly, but the development course does tackle some more advanced concepts in terms of coding languages and things that you may have not come across before. So we do have some additional support with the Game Development Bootcamp in the form of additional coding education that kind of goes with it that you can take, I believe, before you start the course. So, but again, so you don't have to have any prior experience for it, but just be aware that they are boot camps. So you'll start off at a very base level, but over the course of 6 months, you're going to be tackling some pretty advanced concepts and learning some really cool stuff for game development and design. For game development, that includes learning C# coding. So it's basically learning a new language when you take a course, which is amazing. But just always want people to be prepared for that to come on the development side. And then the project-based learning for both of these boot camps is amazing because at the end, the students have a portfolio. You can basically take all the projects that you did throughout the course, build it into a portfolio, including your capstone project that you do at the end, and you actually have work that you can share with your resume when you're looking for career opportunities. Ooh, sorry. So These courses also come with digital badges once you finish. So you get the portfolio of projects that I just mentioned. You've got Unity badges that show here the designer and then the Unity developer badge. And then you also have access to our network for life. So basically all of our students that come through our courses get added into a Discord network. And then they are encouraged and welcome to stay in that network for life. So current students kind of end up connecting with current students, with past students. Developers connect with designers, vice versa. People come together, start building games. They share project ideas. They just ask questions. The instructors are on there. A lot of our instructors, like Julian here, Julian's a part-time instructor with us, but he's also a level designer at Ubisoft. So, vast amount of knowledge that we can get from these people too, in that sense, and they're included in this network. So just it's invaluable. We basically, all the students tell us that as they go through, that they utilize the network constantly if they have questions or if they're looking to kind of find somebody to do a collaboration with game development, game design, whatever the case may be. So that's a little bit about the courses there. And then the game development actually comes with an additional level of certification. So we worked with Unity to create our courses. We also worked with Unity years ago to help create their certification levels for all of their certification that they have on their website. So we include this level in our game development course, meaning that the price is included in the course. And then once you finish the course, you'll be certified by us at Circuit Stream, by the university partner, also by Unity, because our certification is tied with Unity. But then you also get the opportunity to go in and take an additional certification on Unity's website. I think they only have them available for developers. So that's why it's just development specific. But you would go through and you could take this. Your first time writing it, the cost would be covered. And if you pass that, then you would be certified an additional level through your Unity as well. So yeah, and that's normally 450, but it's included in the course there for you. Now, John, I'll say to you, throw the questions into the questions tab as you can. I just happened to notice that one pop up there. Is the Game Design Bootcamp an Unreal authorized training center via Epic Games? So we're not associated or connected with Epic Games. We are connected with Unity. We started off mostly as a development company in the XR space 2 years ago. So Unity was a natural partner fit for us. And while we've adopted Unreal as one of the main tools, the main tool, I should say, for the Unreal course, we're not partnered with them in the same way that we are with Unity. So I wouldn't say that it's an authorized training center versus via Epic, but we're using the tool as the main tool throughout the design course rather. So I hope that answered your question. And John, if you have any more questions on that too, just feel free to throw it into the questions tab there, and I can loop back at the end here and make sure I answer anything else that you need there. Okay, did I skip a slide? Yes, I did. So career development, all of our boot camps are structured with ample career support and guidance. We have career labs that teach students how to leverage technical and behavioral strengths, gain awareness, build compelling portfolios, elevate their digital presence, learn how to network effectively, and ultimately just become interview ready for industry jobs. So our career and networking support really does set us apart from other boot camps or programs that you may find. Every student has different objectives coming in, but those who are looking for new jobs or to improve on their current positions, they find this aspect of the course incredibly helpful. In fact, now this stats, we have to update this just because we just came into the new year, but 92% of the 2023 game development grads had utilized our career services support, which is amazing. We love to see numbers like that. That's why we make those support services available. And then as a part of the career support, our boot camps also come with a student pitch day, which happens at the end of the program. Basically, it's just an opportunity for students to showcase their capstone projects. And we invite people in like Julian. I think, I don't know if the timing worked actually, but we actually just invited Julian to come to our upcoming student pitch days for game development and design. So he may be there. I can't remember what we said about the timing, but if not, there's certainly going to be a bunch of people in there. And all the students who are currently in our courses will be graduating in the next couple of months, and they'll get the opportunity to present their projects to a room full of professionals, hiring partners, industry partners, and oftentimes we'll have career opportunities provided right there. Hey, Sarah Smith, we loved your project. We have a contract opportunity through this game studio. Would you be interested? That sort of thing. And then outside of that too, it's just a great way for them to get feedback, to kind of get advice from the industry professionals. And if the partner's not hiring, but they are, 3 or 4 months down the road, chances are if they came in and they saw all these projects, they're going to remember some of those students, and they'll probably be, not probably, they often reach out to us and for those cases too. So a little bit about our pitch day. This is, I'm going to pause it. This is just a quick example of one of the video or games that one of our students made in the course. It's just like a 20-second clip. It's not really showing too much, but just to give you an idea of something that you could kind of build as you're going through the course. That's all. So it's not, it doesn't show anything groundbreaking in terms of like winning the game or doing anything, but just to give people an idea of some of the graphics you can create and the movement and the game styles there. And I'm going to try and not let this play again. See if I can advance the slide. It's probably going to play again. Oh, it didn't. That's the first time I ever got that to work. So, all right. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and invite today's guest speaker up on stage. As I mentioned, Julian is one of our part-time game design bootcamp instructors, but he's also a level designer at Ubisoft Montreal. And I'm just going to ask him some questions about the courses. In full transparency, he does focus more on the game design course, and he is a part-time instructor with us. So if there's any questions here that he is unable to answer today, or if there's anything that we're unable to give you information on right away, we'll take that as an opportunity to have somebody from the team reach out and make sure that we get that information to you right away. So so don't be nervous to ask any questions there, and we'll do our best to answer everything. But without further ado, Julian, you are welcome to jump up on the stage here.
All right. Everyone could see me. We're all good?
Yeah. I'm going to make you big too, just a forewarning.
Oh, man. Yeah. That freaks me out a bit, but all right. We're good.
Awesome. And I see, so there's some more questions in the chat there, guys. Again, feel free to throw them into the questions tab, and then we'll make sure we loop back and get all those for you at the end. There's some good ones in there about like artistic ability and stuff, and I want to make sure I answer that stuff for you. So go ahead and throw it in the questions tab. But for you, Julian, welcome, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we can just dive right in. If you like, I can start asking you some questions here about the courses and about your experience, and then we'll just kind of tackle the questions from the crowd as we go there. So the first one I'll ask you, Julian, is what are some of the main topics or units that are covered in the gaming courses that we offer?
Sure. So actually, it differs depending on whether you're in the game development or game design, as you covered a little bit before. If you're in the game development side of things, it's a lot more technical, and think of like the back end stuff. So you're going to be doing a lot of coding, a lot of C# using Visual Studio, and that's going to be done making games in the Unity engine. But you'll be using a lot of like database software like Git, GitHub, a lot of organization. A big part of both programs using their respective softwares is actually project management and knowing about like the pipeline, the flow of a production, which is really important in the real game industry. So it's a good preview, and it's something very valuable. Specifically in the game development one, you're going to be doing a lot of coding, so learning like algorithm structuring. I'm no pro in this, but that is what you're going to be doing, and you're going to be learning how to basically code for games, multiplayer games, mobile games, and specifically in the Unity engine leading up to your capstone project. Whereas in the game design side of things, it's going to be a lot more focused on Unreal, and you're going to be learning a lot of the different aspects that go into game design more on the front end side of things. So you're going to start from like maybe a little bit smaller scale. You're going to understand like the rules that go into making a game, how you go from an idea on paper to a prototype to actually getting something play tested and getting feedback and implementing said feedback, and then understanding the different facets of design. So you have level design, you have UX design, UI design, and how to implement those to make the game more fun and give it more of a sensation, more of a feel. You're going to learn all the different components that go into making a game, all the terminologies that ultimately also lead up to your capstone project at the end.
Amazing. And we have syllabi available too for the courses there. So if anybody is interested in that, we can share the link in the chat there in a little bit too. Actually, in fact, I think at the end of the presentation, I have some QR codes available so that you can kind of scan and go right through to the course pages for each of our partners there too. So awesome. Okay, thank you, Julian. Next question I have here for you is, are there any specific tools or programs that the students get to work on in the boot camps? I know we kind of mentioned Unity and Unreal already, but.
So yes, there's actually a lot more on the game development side where you're going to be learning a lot of different softwares relating to to coding. On the game design side, it's pretty straightforward. You have Unreal Engine, you have a Figma, which is sort of like a collaborative tool for looking at media together, and you're also going to be dealing with the Twine, which is I don't know if anyone here's used Twine before, but even if you've never used any software before, Twine is a great you can play with that right now and it would be kind of intuitive. It's basically just like a branching software for narrative, almost like creating a choose your own adventure. It's also good for organizing ideas, so you can use that for planning out your games. And there's going to be a pretty wide range actually on the coding side, and that will be a lot of like project management stuff like Jira, which is usually used in the industry for making bugs. You have Slack, which is sort of the communications one. Like I said, Git and GitHub from earlier, which is more of like your coding databases, Visual Studio, which would be coding in. And yeah, so you would have more than enough to learn that would be very applicable in the game industry.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. Let me jump into the next one here. Will students get to build their own games or projects during the course?
So throughout the course, both courses are going to involve a lot of projects. You're going to be developing projects throughout your entire boot camp, but that leads up to your capstone project, which is like your actual game making experience. We're going to make your own project. You'll pitch it, you'll make it, and then you get to show that off on pitch day. So that's going to be where you get to get the public's opinion, the industry's opinion on what you make.
And you can do those solo or with a group, I think, too. Like, for example, we have our game development and design pitch days coming up. And I believe if I reviewed the projects correctly, there's some of them presenting in groups and then there's some presenting solo. So there's obviously people who've kind of, I think there's some students who did both. Like they joined a group and then they also did a solo project too. So because I've seen the same name twice, it's like they're going to present solo and then also a group. So which is pretty cool. But cool. All right. So yeah, a little bit about the projects and the capstone there, but I can jump into the next one here. So how will these courses help students who are considering a career in game development and design?
So regardless of which program you decide to go into, it's a good opportunity to also discover, because I believe I saw someone mention in the chat, for example, like whether they were wondering whether they needed visual art skills, which I think is it's a fair question. And just for the record, I don't have visual art skills at all. And it's important for you to do these kinds of programs, these kinds of courses and projects help you kind of discover your strengths. And you kind of be surprised when you're making a game. You kind of have to wear, like, especially in a smaller scale, like when you're in a school, you're gonna be wearing a lot of different hats. You're gonna be trying out different things. You're gonna find your areas of interest and your strengths, and it'll help you kind of focus and discover where you want to be career-wise. So you might discover, I mean, even in my experience, like there are some areas of art that I didn't know I could really do, but because you're just experimenting, you're having fun, you're making a game, you might need something. You might be like, oh, I need this one little thing. I can't seem to find someone who could do this for me. You give it a go, you try it out. You might be pleasantly surprised at what you could pull off yourself. But that goes specifically also for the different fields and subsets of design, and you might find that you're like, oh, I want to be more a level designer, a narrative designer, a game designer. You might find your passion by doing these projects together. So yeah, it was a bit meandery, but I hope that answered the question, because it'll help
No.
you sort of narrow down your focus.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I shared a bunch of details previously about the courses too, so people could kind of like, understand, I guess, in general, but what you just said really hones in on how these courses would actually help people. So yes, that was good. That was a good answer. All right. And then how are the boot camps structured? Do students primarily learn by doing, or is it a mix of theory and practice?
All right, so I think you may have covered this a little bit before, but it is like a project-based learning program. So you are going to be doing a lot of projects. There is still going to be like theory to help support your it's going to be balanced out with some theory to help you support the ideas that you're learning and that you're practicing through your projects. And I think for me, just personally, that's the best possible way of learning is by doing, because if you just sat around and learned theories of game design all day, you're no more ready for working in the industry or making games if you know how to do it. You have to do it, and you'll discover that in doing it, you learn so many things. Things are going to go wrong, and you'll learn how to fix problems yourself, and you become more independent, and you think better, you think faster once you start doing it yourself. So yeah, it's really important to make projects, and it's a great thing to have in this program.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier too. It's like the amount of university students I hear that come to us and they're like wanting to take the boot camp because they took a game course or whatever, computer science, whatever the case may be, and then they're like, I don't feel ready, I don't feel prepared, I have no practical experience, like I haven't actually done anything, I don't have any projects that way. So it's yeah, it's definitely a focus that we have on our courses here for sure. All right. How would you and other instructors support students who feel stuck or who needed some extra help as they're going through the course?
Okay, so I think you mentioned that there is a professional network that can support students who need help or need help in more precise areas outside of what the instructors like myself or the main instructor are able to do. But that being said, even if let's say, I don't know, I sub, because I'm a substitute teacher, if I sub a class and you like my take on something and you're like, oh, I like the feedback you gave me, you can still contact me, even if I'm not like the main instructor. You can contact me and I can try and just work through some problems with you. And I think that goes for pretty much everyone who's teaching, and we're willing to help. So if you're just stuck with something and you just want a variety of opinions, you can feel free to shoot me a message and or email me, and we'll work through it together. So I'm just available for you.
Yeah, that's very common. I hear that sort of same feedback from all of our instructors and from the students. Like the students will say, "Oh, geez, I messaged the instructor at a random time, and at whatever 1 a.m, just thinking about because I thought about it, and then I wasn't thinking about it, and they responded back right away." And I was like, "Well, it's not something that I expected, but the instructors that we have and the people we bring in are pretty passionate about what they do and just about the industry, and even taking the instructor component out, just developers and designers in the game industry are very supportive of one another. It's just the way the industry is. It's amazing. So take that a level further and have somebody who's actually teaching you. They're going to take that even more seriously, and they're going to want to be as available for you as they can. So yeah, we've got the network, we've got the instructors who are constantly available. And then if there was anybody in the class that needed any sort of special setups or needed information kind of presented maybe a slower format or a different way, we also have teams here that kind of work with the students for all of that stuff too. So just full support kind of all around that we offer here. So all right, and then a few more questions. So and I know the answer to this. The audience is also going to know the answer to this because I already said it a few times, but are there any prerequisites for the courses, or can anybody join regardless of prior experience?
No, it's supposed to be completely beginner friendly. So from anyone from a university graduate to someone who just has a high school diploma or whatever your background may be, you should be able to just start from here, and it's like a fresh start to just learn game development or game design from the beginning of this bootcamp.
Yeah, and the cool thing is I mean, the only investment you really have to do before you take a course like this is just making sure you have access to internet and access to a computer or laptop. It can be Mac, it can be PC. There's ways around. I think Mac has a couple more things you got to do to jump around some hoops sometimes for development, but you can absolutely use it. Lots of our students have that. So otherwise, like Unity's free to download, Unreal's free to download. All of the tools we use in the course are free. There's obviously paid versions of some of these tools, but you certainly don't have to do it. Like there's GitHub, and then there's paid versions of like the AI versions and stuff in there too that you can play with right now too. So lots of stuff, but yeah, there's no prerequisites, and you don't really have to invest a ton in terms of equipment or anything either. So, all right. And then what would you say to somebody who might feel nervous about joining the world of game development or game design if they have no prior experience, or they're just, they've only played their favorite games and they've always wanted to be a part, but they're just kind of nervous to jump in?
So I would say, just honestly speaking, I'd probably ask about like what was making someone, nervous in the first place. But if I speak from like my own experience or understanding, like, it just seems intimidating, not knowing anything about it. I'd say that if you care, if you're passionate about it, that there's no real better way to do it than to go to school for the thing that you're passionate about. Because if you lack the direction or the initiative to sort of like figure it out yourself, which it is really hard to put that upon yourself, to learn how to make a game from scratch alone. Going to a program that will sort of show you the way, that give you some guidelines, it's pretty much the fastest and most efficient way to get yourself familiar with making games and familiar with the software. Because making games is kind of intimidating. I understand that completely, especially from before I went to school for it. It was like, I always wanted to do it, but I watch a video and I'm like, oh my God, there's a million different sides to this thing. But, you slowly but surely in a program, you start to realize it's like the mountain isn't as big as you think it is. The more you learn about how it works, the more you use it, the more you're like, oh yeah, well, I know how to do this little bit. Oh yeah, I know how to do this little bit. And slowly but surely, what seemed like intimidating or impossible, like, it starts to shrink a little and you start to feel a bit more comfortable with it. I won't lie, it is a constant process. I'm still learning. There's still certain things I don't know. But in my field and what I do, I know I'm capable of it. And I know that pretty much going to school sort of fast passes that process.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I think you're always learning, and it's impossible to not be always learning with the pace of things changing, with AI coming in now, and like we're using new AI tools, and it's like you're basically always going to be learning in roles like this. But no, that makes sense. Okay, and then so 2 more questions here. What would you say to?
Just gonna blow my nose real quick. I have a bit of a cold.
Oh sure, yeah, go ahead. That was me last week. I also caught the cold that has been going around like crazy. So
it's a bit freezing here in Montreal.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it was here. It's over the weekend we were at like almost minus 20, and now we're back to -1 today.
Oh, lucky
it's
you.
typical Calgary. I know my family's in Ontario. They're freezing right now too. So, all right. So 2 more questions. What would you say to someone who's considering taking a game development or design course like this? And do you have any experience doing any courses like this?
So yeah, I touched a bit upon it before, but I would say if you want to become a game designer, a level designer, you want to get into game development, I strongly suggest doing a program. Basically, like in my experience, just to give you a bit of my own story, I went to university in something, I knew I wanted to be in games, but I did something that was kind of not related. And then when I finished that, I realized I'm like, I actually have no experience. I don't know how to make a video game. So I sort of tried it on my own for a bit, and it was pretty tough without any guidance. And so I decided eventually, like, hey, you know what have I got to lose to do? It wasn't called a boot camp, but I did an intensive of 10 months, and I went to a local school. And yeah, it was probably, like, for me at least, it was like one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. It was like super efficient, and like I learned everything back to back. Everything I needed to know. I created a network in the process, and that's a side benefit, is like the people that you're going to school with, they might get jobs before you, and now you have like a network that's in the industry. You meet people while you're doing it. It's a great way to sort of just throw yourself in there without experience, and it gives you experience on every possible front. So for me, by the end of mine, I also had a capstone project. And that was that's the first impressive thing you're also going to have in your portfolio. And your portfolio is going to be the way you get your first job as well. People are going to look at like what you're capable of. and that's the best of what you're capable of from school. So everything just sort of links into the next step. And it, at least in my case, it's super important to consider doing a program to do some schooling, and I just highly recommend it because I'm just speaking for myself here, but it, like, if you're able to just force yourself to sit down and make games back to back without any prior experience, then power to you. But I'm speaking as someone who needs like support or help, or someone who needed guidance, and for me, going to a program that had that structure set up for me was the easiest way to get that knowledge as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And I don't know if you and I haven't talked about this, so I don't know if this was your experience, but I hear from people all the time, like, oh, I tried to, I know there's tutorials online and I thought I could just go on and kind of do it myself. And I ended up spending months learning the wrong things and watching tutorials on things that didn't make sense. And then I had to unlearn a whole bunch of stuff and kind of go back and start at the beginning. And then they ended up knocking at our door and taking the boot camp anyways. So it's, I can see you nodding.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's like what ended up happening with me was I just saw the tutorials and they were just too scary to me before I went to school. When I was finished school, I actually then did tutorials to help make more elaborate things. But when you have a bit of a baseline already and you kind of know what you're looking at, they don't look intimidating. It's just there's a longer process involved when you want to make something very elaborate and very complicated. But when you see a tutorial, you can watch it and you kind of already have a basis. And having that basis saves you from getting into that exact situation where you're like, I don't know what's happening. I'm learning all this stuff. Is it useful? You'll know if it's useful after you've touched it a bit.
Totally. And that's what we say to people too. Like, education online, tutorials through YouTube, like they can be amazing. Things like that can be amazing, but it's more of an add-on than it is your base kind of ground level understanding. You have to kind of build that first and then go in and use it as like, I know the base aspects of game development or coding. Now I want to go in and really specialize in this one area. And there's like, some tutorials that'll teach me how to do that. So to your point, that's exactly the kind of feedback that we get a lot, or that the instructors share with students. So cool. All right. And then the last question's super easy. Where can people find you or connect with you?
So my name is a little bit long and complicated, my last name. If you guys can basically add me on LinkedIn, you can just use that. It's my name. So if you just look that up on LinkedIn, you can add me there. You can ask me questions there. And that's like probably the fastest way to reach me. It's my professional location. So yeah, feel free to add me. I'm not going to reject anybody here. So go ahead. You got nothing to lose. And yeah, if you want to contact me for anything, just go right ahead.
Awesome. And same with me. My contact info is just my name, Tyler Trapp. And if you search that and Circuit Stream on LinkedIn, you'll find me. I always joke and say, I think there's only one of me. I don't think there's any other Tyler Trapps working at a Circuit Stream out there. But so Julian, I'm going to move you over to the side. You're over here with me. And I guess you're still on the big screen, even though you're not. But and I'm just going to share some quick information with the crowd about our upcoming course, like our start dates, our pricing, that kind of stuff, if that is cool with everyone. And then in about 2 minutes, we'll do the Q&A. So I'll start off with the course schedules and outcomes here. So both courses are 30 weeks. This is just a little bit of a breakdown of kind of what that would look like throughout the week there for you. 5 hours, 2.5, and then 10 hours. And then some of the benefits of our gaming boot camps, I always kind of say, like, if the only benefit was that it was going to give you a possible career in the industry, for me personally, I would think that would be worth it. But we do focus on some other stuff in our courses that I think is worth shouting out. So they come with 30 weeks of instructor-led classes, which include 12 technical career labs and 10 one-on-one sessions, which is pretty cool. The boot camps provide students with foundational game development and design core concepts. This is what Julian and I were just talking about. It's really hard to kind of go out and learn any specialized areas or anything until you have those core concepts. And that is what our boot camps kind of focus on. They allow students to create and develop comprehensive portfolios. Again, we touched on this throughout the presentation today. They connect students to a network of instructors and over 2,000 alumni. Again, we talked kind of about the Discord, kind of, going back and just mentioning all this stuff again for you guys. And then we also provide private AMA sessions for our students. So basically, these are Ask Me Anything sessions where we'll bring in somebody like Julian. And instead of it being a full structured session like this, where I'm talking about the course, this is just for students who are in the course at that time. And we open it up so that the students in the course can kind of grill Julian with a bunch of questions about, what do you do day to day? How did you get into Ubisoft? How could we get? Are there any opportunities in the industry that you're aware of? What could we do to get ahead? How can we stand out? Those sorts of things. So really, really invaluable for students who are in the course, especially as they're kind of getting near the end of the course and their capstone projects. Just gives them some confidence and gives them a bunch of information that they wouldn't be able to find outside, because it's kind of hard to just randomly go knock on a level designer's door or a game developer's door and ask questions without it being through a forum like this. So, and then as a quick reminder, these are the key outcomes from the Game Development Bootcamp, including the additional certification there that I mentioned, and then similarly for the Game Design Bootcamp. And the pricing, so the pricing is actually the same for both of these boot camps. The full price is $14,995. And then we have purchase now and pay over time options too. So if anybody has any questions about that, you can just reach out. I'm going to share the contact information for our admissions team in just a moment. In terms of the upcoming courses, February 11th through September 11th is the cohorts for both development and design. And then after that, there's one that will run from May 13th to December 18th. In full transparency, I'm not sure how many seats we have left in the game development or design cohorts for February. I know that these classes are pretty popular, so there might be some seats left in both of those. So if you guys have any questions about that, or if you're interested in getting started in one of our upcoming cohorts, just let us know. This is an easy way to submit your applications if you wanted to directly through these QR codes. You can go through and kind of access the course page through each of our partners. And then if you just wanted to reach out and maybe ask somebody on the admissions team some questions, or if you wanted to book a meeting with them and kind of go over some stuff, this is the easiest way to do that. Admissions@circuitstream.com. We've got an amazing team that cover both the universities and then just directly here through CircuitStream. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions on that stuff or anything that we don't answer here today. And that's it. That's the full presentation there. So I'm going to go ahead and close this screen, and we're back up big on the screen again now. And we can go through some of the Q&A here. So I'm going to flip over to the questions tab. So if anybody has any more questions, just go ahead and keep adding them into the questions tab. I've actually got, I don't know, I'm going to publish a couple polls here too quick while we're going through the Q&A. So feel free to respond to these polls in the polls tab there. Let me see. Publish. Yeah, those should all be in there now. So feel free to fill out the polls, and I'll start with the first question here at the bottom. So what are the equipment requirements for the courses? So Dante, I think I kind of jumped into this just a couple minutes ago without realizing that you had asked, but so there's really not a whole lot. You just need a computer that works, that's probably not super dated. If you have something that's too old and can't really run Unreal or Unity, you might run into an issue there. But outside of that, you don't have to have PC versus Mac. You can have either. And then the programs that we use, Unreal and Unity, are both free for download. So that's kind of, if you have any other questions, like Dante, if you had a computer that you're like, I'm not quite sure, it's, might be on the edge, it might not be fast enough, it might be too slow, I can always connect you with the team, or if you just reach out to admissions at CircuitStream, they can kind of connect with you closer and maybe give you a little bit more of the requirements there, but that should help. Okay, can you do the Game Design Bootcamp through UCF School of Continuing Studies? No, that one is not available through UCF. So basically our courses are available through different universities based on what they offer overall. And if they're offering something already at the university that's quite similar to the course that we have, then that one might not be available through that. So the game design course is available through quite a few of our university partners, but just not UCF. That's one of the ones that just the game development is available through. Okay, what are some of the most used coding languages in the industry besides C#? I'm gonna. Do you know that? A good answer to that one, Julian?
I think C# is probably the most popular, but I will say that if you're using Unreal Engine and you're not using Blueprints, you'll be using C++. C# is mostly used with Unity, but also every engine kind of. In my own experience, I've worked at studios that have their own coding language as well, but usually they're the closest equivalent to C#. And in my understanding, C# is probably one of the most prevalent ones, or C# likes are the most prevalent. And once you learn a bit of C#, you can also transfer some of that knowledge. C++ is maybe a little trickier, but just knowing C# helps you a lot in understanding other languages.
Absolutely. And that's actually why we chose C# when we were doing our course, for everything you just said, because it's a little bit easier to grasp than C++ to start out the gate. But you can learn things like C++ way easier if you already know C#. So perfect. Awesome. Okay, Dante, is this boot accredited? I qualify for disability grants through the government, but they require their course to be accredited. I don't believe so. I don't think it would qualify for disability grants or anything that way. There are some funding options that are available for our courses, I should say. I think there's some info on our website for that, but the admissions team could probably dive a bit deeper into that for you and let you know exactly what sort of funding. But in terms of the accreditation, I don't think it would be accredited to the point where you'd be able to qualify for government grants through that. But yeah, I can get the admissions team to reach out. Dante, do you want me to have the admissions team reach out to you there? I'll jump into the next question here too while we do that. Are there opportunities in the Game Design Bootcamp to learn system design skills and possibly work on data tables in Unreal and Excel or Google spreadsheets? That is a really good question. Game design to learn system design skills and possibly work with data tables in Unreal. I don't know if that's included in the course.
I would imagine that you would learn some system design skills. I don't know the precision of like specifically if data tables will be covered. I imagine some. I'm not sure. Like, just to be clear, if I'm understanding this right, like by data tables, do you mean like values that change depending? Let's say like a rule, like how much damage a gun would do depending on different circumstances, and you have like a list of variables that would change, if I'm understanding correctly. Because if so, I feel like that just by learning systems, by learning game design, you're going to end up running into that at some point. So there's a chance you may cover some variation of it, but I'm not 100% sure if that exact, like we're going to be using, what we're going to be using, like Excel or Google spreadsheets for that.
Yeah, and if there was something along those lines too that wasn't necessarily built in, as long as the instructor, whoever it is kind of comfortable with that, they could also jump a little bit off the course script with you and maybe do some of that. But yeah, I don't know if they would use like Unreal or Google spreadsheets or what the case would be there. But maybe you can expand a bit too, John, in the chat there. All right, I'm going to jump into the next one. Is there a possibility of failing the course? Are there grades required for the project? Yeah, so if you go through and you don't complete the projects and you're not doing things, then you won't pass the course and you won't get the certification. And you do have to complete the projects within a specific amount of time. I think there's a bit of leniency there too. You can kind of finish up some of the stuff, I think within a month or so after the course is coming to an end. I believe there's some leniency there, but yeah, absolutely. You have to make sure you complete the projects. And if you don't do that, then I don't know if we'd say, we're not going to send you a big letter that says course failed in capital letters or something, but you just won't receive the certification for it. And you wouldn't be considered as completing the course sort of thing. So what is the weekly schedule of the boot camp and what is the cost? So I probably answered that, Christopher, in my presentation. I shared a couple slides near the end, kind of showing you what the weekly time commitment might look like. And then also shared some of the pricing information with you there. So I should have answered that for you, Christopher. But if you have any other questions on that, feel free to add another one in to the chat here, or we can, just connect with the admissions team and we can get you more details there too. Do you have any advice for people looking to break into the industry to be successful in game design? I'm going to let you answer that one, Julian.
Oh man, I could do an entire talk on that alone. But personally, just the quickest tips I can give you, or I'll give you two. One, I would say make a really inviting portfolio that's very simplistic. That's one of my favorite ones, is just having a very digestible portfolio. And two, I would say know how to market what you want to be the most. So like if you don't have to be too overly precise, be like, I only make horror game levels or whatever. But let's say you're being a level designer. I would say if you wanted to make like, oh, I want to make action games, or I want to make like 3D games, then specifically focus on making a variety of 3D levels in your portfolio and give some variety, but make it as easy to understand your process as possible, and just basically make an inviting portfolio, which you're going to learn about like how to make those projects you put in your portfolio in a school program like at Circuit Stream. So those are the two things I would say would help the most.
Oh yeah. Make the portfolio engaging. Like, I don't know, some people make like a little game for them to get to the skills or something. Like anything, if you can incorporate your skills, is always fun. So, okay, for the gameplay design portion of the curriculum, what does it cover exactly? Are you working on the mechanics specifically?
So I can say that, yeah, you would be working on mechanics specifically. I think that in the game design side of things, you're making most of everything for the game. So you're like, it's more focused on the front end. So you would be using like blueprints and Unreal to make things happen, but you're not going to be as heavy on the coding side, which would be more in the game development program. But you will be doing mechanics. You'll be doing pretty much anything involved in making a prototype of a game. If you want to show like a game working, you need to have functional mechanics, understanding what makes those mechanics fun. So yeah, I would say you're not just doing mechanics, but you definitely will be.
Absolutely. And John, there's also, I think I said this before too, but if you request the course syllabus on our website, I think it just gets emailed to you after you fill out your first name, last name, email address, and then it'll get sent off to you. And it'll be a really good kind of tool for you to look through and get a good understanding of all the different areas that are covered. We certainly don't mind elaborating and sharing in the session, but if you kind of want to take a document after this and really kind of look at it and understand what the course covers, the course syllabus would be the best thing for you to get your hands on. It kind of shows all the different sections, and then within that, it tells you the tools that would be used and kind of what the focus would be there for each. So, all right. Are the skills when making a game, specifically the programming skills within a specific genre, transferable? Like if I make a platformer game, for example, are they programming skills there transferable when making a game for another genre, like first-person shooter?
Oh my God, yeah, I can answer that one. 100% they're transferable. So obviously there's going to be new things when you do either of them. So when you're making I'm not exactly a super elite programmer here, but I've done programming. And there's just understanding what goes into making a game, like just making the most simple, if you make like a Mario clone, just understanding what goes into that will help you make almost any other kind of game. There will be new challenges that are going to be introduced to you. For example, just understanding movement and knowing how to move your character and what that looks like variable-wise in the programming. Movement exists in a platformer. It exists in a first-person shooter. So just right there, rules like your health points, things like that, that's universal. So just understanding variables, which is a concept in programming, that applies across the board for programming. I would say it would be harder if you were a programmer for something completely different, like for some sort of cell phone app, like if you're a programmer for Facebook. You might there's still transferable knowledge, but there'd be far less than if you just made a game. If you made any kind of game, you're already experienced. Like you'll have a core knowledge that can be applied to other genres.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I fully agree. Okay. All right. Let me see how many we've got. A few more questions up here. Are there any developments or information about working remotely for studios that are not based in your country or province state? Yes. I mean, I know we have students who were working. It's harder to know exactly what the opportunities would be outside of country. Outside of province state is quite easy because I know we have Canadian students who've taken the program and they're working for studios that are located on the other side of the country, students in Vancouver, for example, might be working with like Ubisoft Toronto or something, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So I know that that's certainly an opportunity. Now, when you're going over the border, you just have to add in the additional, you know, you're not getting a job in the same country. There's certainly opportunities there. I just don't know if those would be offered as readily as the opportunities within the same country, I guess. Like they may be looking to hire people from within their own country first before they hire somebody from overseas or over the border. However, if your portfolio is amazing and you are a superstar and you look awesome, and they really want to hire you, then chances are that you would qualify for those types of positions too. So I'm hoping, Devin, that this is answering your question.
I can
I'm
actually add a little bit to that too.
yeah, maybe add a little more there.
Yeah, just in my own experience, at least during COVID, I saw that I'm from Canada, obviously Montreal. I saw positions opened for most Canadians outside of Quebec, unfortunately, so not applying to me. But everywhere but Quebec, I know that Insomniac and Sucker Punch were open to hiring Canadians remotely. And I can also say that from my own experience, I've seen a friend of mine who was not asked to relocate to work remotely for Sony Santa Monica, which is, you know, obviously an American studio. So in California, but staying in Montreal, yeah, there are opportunities. I even had a friend who's working for Blizzard on Diablo while being in Montreal. So these things exist. I agree with everything Tyler said. It is harder if you're trying to get like a job from another country. Usually you kind of have established yourself in some way and that you have some sort of trump card or something that makes you stand out a little bit more. Because there's going to be a lot of competition. In general, in game development, there's a lot of competition. But if you want to have a role from outside your country, it's always going to be a little bit more difficult. It's not impossible at all, but it will be tricky.
Totally. It might be too soon to use the word trump card yet. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was worried. I said that and I was like,
I'm totally kidding. All right. How much level design is covered in the curriculum? Will there be opportunities to create 2D maps and white box levels?
okay, so I definitely seen in the curriculum that there is definitely a focus on making game environments. I think that while I can't say for sure because I'm not the main instructor, that like however they decide to formulate the level design class might not be how if I were the one designing the course from the ground up, it might be different. Because this is a game design course first with level design as part of the education system. I think that doing a 2D map or a white box is like pretty much inherent. Like you need to do a bit of that if you want to plan out. And even if the course material doesn't require you to have to do that, I would say you could still do it. It's basically just planning. It's the planning phase of your level. So regardless of whether it's mandatory or not, I think like making your environment in a block out first or in a 2D map first is going to go a long way.
And if you had an instructor like Julian too, even if it wasn't something like you could just ask, you know, just say, hey, this is what I want to do. I've seen a million cases of our instructors kind of going off script and just meeting with students outside of hours and, you know, hey, let's connect on this later and we'll do like a private session and take a look at it kind of thing. So even if it wasn't included, you could probably find a way to get it included, depending on what it is, obviously. But for something like that, it would make sense. So in the Game Development Bootcamp, is there any specific focus on a type of project like 3D games, 2D games, or XR games? Or does the bootcamp help you fit into any of these? So I don't think we focus on XR games in the Game Development Bootcamp. We do have a separate XR bootcamp altogether, for one for development and one for design. And we've had students, like I had one, for example, that I can think of Monday, took both of those courses. And then he developed an XR game, like a full first person shooter kind of XR version of a game. So he kind of utilized from both courses, I guess. But so sorry, to go back to your question here, is there any focus on a type of project like 3D games, 2D? I think you would probably cover everything broadly except for XR. I don't think you kind of dive into XR in the Game Development Bootcamp. But the bootcamp could absolutely help you fit into any of these. Like there's a lot of people who might have a special interest or they're really interested in XR overall. Maybe they took the Game Development Bootcamp with us and maybe they have some sort of XR knowledge outside of that. And they just, you know, they could ask the instructor, hey, like I learned a little bit about this. This is really intriguing to me. How can I kind of incorporate that with this education to try and do this? And the instructors are probably going to be able to give you a whole whack of advice and help you kind of do that too. So, the better thing too, I keep saying this to everyone, but if you request the course syllabus and have a look through the different sections, it's going to kind of tell you exactly what's going to be covered in each of the different areas there too. All right, a few more. I'll try and get through these as we can here. Will there be any group assignments, or is everything a solo mission? I love the way you said solo mission. There's a opportunity for both. So you can work solo throughout a lot of your learning experience, but then when it comes to projects, especially things like the capstone, you can work as a group. So we've like for your capstone project, oftentimes it'll be I don't know, shoot the apple off the counter, and then this is the game we built, and then it'll have 4 people that came in and built this project, and each one will kind of come up and say, hey, I'm John Smith. I was responsible for the designing for this, and I really focused on this. Or on the development side, I really focused on this aspect, and I helped, the animation when the gun changes from one to the next, or whatever the case may be that you guys kind of work on. So it's a really cool opportunity to work as a group, but also to kind of highlight your own individual expertise and kind of what you worked on throughout it when you're doing things like the pitch day there. So so both. Long story short, you can do both of those in the course. Are there weekly technical applied activities for students to submit and receive feedback from or an input? Yes. Yeah. So you're doing project-based learning throughout the whole course for both of them. And each week you're going to be submitting things and getting feedback from the instructor as you go through. What does the capstone comprise of in each boot camp? So it's kind of open. Like we don't say you have to develop or design this exact thing. In fact, we don't. We leave it open so that you can create your own thing. So when it comes to our student pitch days, we have a whole variety of games. Like the last one we just had, there was like horror games, and then there was like first person shooter games, and then there was zombie games, and there, so it's basically whatever survival games. Like you're trapped in a room and you've got to use the prompts to get out. And so there's just lots of different things, but we try not to kind of put you into one category for that. It's basically work on your own or work as a group. These are the main things we want you to kind of achieve overall, but within that, be as creative as you want and kind of utilize whatever you want there. So can U.S. citizens apply through Climb for financing for their bootcamp? So Climb is available. I'm not directly connected to the financing information all the time, so I'd have to see, because there's a couple different financing options that are available overall. There's some that are for people outside of Canada who have immigrated into Canada and are looking for support for education. There's other ones that are just for Canadian citizens. There's ones that are for US citizens. So would kind of, I don't want to speak out of turn there, John. I'd rather you kind of connect with an admissions person and they can tell you all of the financing that would be available for you depending on where you're located. So if you're in the US, they would be able to just say, okay, awesome. This is what would be available for you in terms of financing options for the course. Climb is a partner that we work with, but because I don't know the specifics of that, I don't want to speak out of turn and say something that's not right. So yeah, John, I'd say the best thing there would be to connect with the team, and they'll just give you all the financing options that we have for the courses. So Julian, how is AI impacting your gaming career? I love that question.
Yeah, and this comes up a lot. So if I'm being honest, AI has been a very weird impact. It's like it's not really getting in the way of my job in any way whatsoever. It's just it exists in like the same sphere as I'm in, and personally, I don't even use it. I can, but at least in level design, it's I don't want to say useless, but it's like I have to kind of force it. If I wanted to use AI, I can give you only 2 methods that it would be useful for me as a level designer. One would be as a brainstorming buddy and be like, what would the level like this look like to Copilot, ChatGPT? Or, in my opinion, the most useful thing I can do with it is help an artist that I'm working with visualize what I'm thinking in my head. If I make a grade block or a block out of my level, and they're like, what is this place supposed to be? And I make it an image of it using an image generator like Midjourney. And I'm like, like a forest, and those little cubes I made are trees and bushes. It might help them visualize it. So personally, in my career, AI is it's not shaking things up too much in level design. I can't speak for art. That's probably where it would be like more controversial. But for me, it just sort of like, it's probably impacting me as much as it's impacting your daily life.
Yeah, I hear different answers too from people, but for the most part, it's either kind of like that, the answer, or um, it's certainly not in threat of taking our jobs anytime soon. But we are kind of utilizing different aspects of it as a tool within our own job. So similar to like even in our office here, and I'm on a marketing team, we use ChatGPT sometimes, could get by without it. We did for a very long time without it, but it's just kind of like sometimes a bit of a helpful tool to help you, kind of like you said, Julian, to get an idea out faster almost, or to help you kind of formulate something. But then you always have to go in and make edits and make it human again anyways afterwards. So yeah, I was just joking, say once it learns how to get the proper amount of fingers on a hand, it might be able to do a little bit more in terms of threatening people's jobs. But it's right now it's just kind of a tool, and people are utilizing it. We try and incorporate the tools in our boot camps too. We try and incorporate some aspects of AI wherever we can. One thing I will say is I think it's easier to incorporate on the development side. It's not perfect at coding by a long shot, but people are trying to utilize AI to assist with coding sometimes. And I think that's on the development side where it could also be a bit helpful. So, okay, two more. Would you say that the gaming industry is stressful in most job positions?
I can answer that, but it really depends. I would say there's so many factors here, depending on what you're doing. The game industry is enormous. So there's a lot of different studios. There's a lot of different positions. I wouldn't say every position is stressful. I've definitely, I've been lucky. I've also been a tester before, and I've been a level designer in 2 different studios. And even project dependent, it's varied wildly. I've had projects as a tester that are exactly what a stereotypical image of a tester is, where like I didn't even really have to bug that much. I just have to play games all day. And if something broke, only then did I have to do something. So like, yeah, that wasn't stressful. Now then again, I've also been a level designer, and some projects were super easy. You breeze right through it. You just do what you're supposed to do. You have fun. And sometimes you have like a project with like deadline 2 weeks. We have no time to lose. You have a million tasks to do. Personally, even for me, even when it does get stressful, I still really like what I do. So it's never, I don't take it too personally, and I do have a decent work-life balance. And I've been fortunate enough to work at studios that care, because the industry wasn't always like that. But now the industry has become a lot more human, and a lot of studios care about your well-being. So if you're starting to get like way too stressed, some studios will kind of defend you and protect you a little bit so you don't, explode and burn out right away.
Yeah, I think that culture is kind of past a little bit, like the crash periods and the burnouts and the, like just it's going to happen still, because people are like, in terms of what I mean, it's going to happen. You're going to have deadlines come up where you're going to have to do things in short amounts of time. But I think to your point too, like if you like what you do, and you just kind of take the highs with the lows, and you realize that sometimes you're going to be crazy busy at work and other times you won't. I think that translates to most industries. I mean, I know that I feel that within my own job too, but yeah, I'd say most game developers and designers I talk to none of them really seem overly stressed or mad or angry or sad. They all seem really supportive and happy and, fulfilled for the most part. So I wouldn't necessarily say, but I'd say there's absolutely stressful parts that would come with the jobs for sure. So,
yes.
All right. Last question on the board here. Are there any specific games or genres that would be the most secure to make a portfolio for a job? This is an interesting question. I like this. Would VR be considered an emerging market, especially with arcades popping up in cities?
Okay. I'll give my very biased personal opinion on this, and you could do this as you will, but in my opinion, you first need to decide. This is what I tell a lot of people. It's like, I would say just off the bat, when you start making a portfolio, whenever you're ready for that, you pick like, I want to be a AAA game developer, or I want to be an indie developer. You pick like one of those two. The safest, most reliable thing you can do, in my opinion, is pick AAA, because AAA, you have a consistent paycheck and your studio is at lower risk of just disappearing the next day. Not saying that you shouldn't be an indie developer. I'm just saying that risk is a little higher there. So if you picked AAA, you could have a more consistent paycheck when you do that. So make a portfolio that reflects a AAA game. So that would be like, just 3D action games, something that just looks like very easily understandable and digestible. That's not to say you can't make unique and original projects on your own, but when it comes to portfolios, that stuff is the stuff that's going to get you a job probably faster. Whereas VR is very niche. I would say that it exists. There's a market for it, absolutely. You just have to look at, the Meta Quest 3, for example, that's like selling like hotcakes. Batman did super well. So there is a market for it, but it's certainly smaller. So if you're trying to like shoot as many targets as you can and like get just a generic job in the industry, AAA action adventure 3D, very easy to just market yourself with that. But if you're like, I'm passionate about VR, I want to be a VR designer, you'll be limiting yourself a little bit. I would probably keep it as an option on your portfolio, because just having one project in VR already makes you stand out. Of like, I don't know how many people have VR projects in the portfolio, so you would already like look like a VR designer just by having one, in my opinion. But that's from my perspective.
I agree fully. I would say like something like VR or XR in general. I mean, adding that to your portfolio or to your base knowledge is only going to make you more secure, because you have more skills than the person beside you does. So if anything was to happen, even if it wasn't within the same studio, your resume would already be in a better position, because you've got all these additional things plus your base level of education on there. So I fully agree with everything that you just said. So, we had another one come up. Are the courses from resources like Coursera or Udemy valid for the industry? Epic Games has a few on Coursera, for example. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to try and find a course that you identify with the most, or that you kind of covers all the topics in the areas that you want to. There's going to be some that are a lot less in depth. There's going to be some that are more in depth. There's boot camps, you've got university education, you've got, just different types of programs, and like fast-paced courses like what you took, Julian, wasn't technically considered a boot camp, I guess. So the best thing I always say is just do your research, have a good look through, find the best course for you. Our boot camps are amazing. They may or may not be what you're looking for, depending on what you're hoping to get at the end. But there's lots of different valid ones. I can't say for sure. I've never really looked through the Udemy courses like in depth, or the Coursera ones to see. If there's things available through Epic, then there's probably some good valid stuff there too. But yeah, just have a good look through. And if you want to ever take a closer look at what we have, I know I've said it a few times, but just request the syllabus and have a look through there, and it'll kind of tell you all the different chapters and covers areas that we cover within the course there. So
I just want to add one quick thing to that.
Oh, sure.
I would say just that like the course itself, obviously make sure you're picking a good program. Like I 100% agree with that. But at the end of the day, what the companies are going to look at, if you're applying to a regular big old company, they're going to look at like what you did more than the school you went to. So that still matters. The school that you go to still matters, because they'll teach you what you need to know to make this stuff. But what you made is what proves your worth as a designer and a developer. It's like, can you do the job we're going to hire you for? So think about it more from that perspective, because like the little certificate or the paper you get is not as important as what you produced by the end of it. So like the capstone in this case.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's I guess that kind of goes into, take a look through the syllabus for the courses on Coursera or Udemy. Take a look at ours, just kind of see, but 100%. Okay, we had another one just pop up here too. Where/how do I enter into your program? I'm presently in high school. Is this a university degree? Can I use my scholarship? I'm not sure how to start, and I'm really interested. So Kevin, kind of depends on your age. So our programs are adult programs, like these boot camps are adult ones. So I believe that you're supposed to be 18 and above to be able to take these ones. I know that we do make the odd exception if somebody, has the available schedule and seems to have the knowledge base and the understanding to kind of join at maybe 16 or 17. We do have teen courses available though as well. So you might want to look at doing something like that, Kevin. The best thing I'd say is maybe connect with our admissions team. Kevin, is it okay? I should say, just maybe throw it in the chat. Is it okay if I have the admissions team reach out to you directly? Because it's probably a good idea. They can kind of let you know, any availability in terms of funding, scholarships, how to get started, and then if you'd be a better fit for either the teen programs or the adult programs that we have there. So yes, please. Great. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'll have the admissions team here reach out to you probably tomorrow. We're getting a little bit later in the day here today, and they might have meetings right up until the end, but I will certainly let them know, and I'll have them reach out to you there, and they can give you some more details on that stuff. So, and actually here, you know what? I'll do this too. See if it'll let me share it one more time. There we go. So yeah, that's the email, Kevin. If you want, you can just also reach out to that, and just admissions@circuitstream.com, or you can, for anybody who's looking for the syllabi too, this again, if you scan any of these here, it's going to take you right to the course pages, and you can book a meeting with our team on those pages. You can ask for the syllabi, or you could submit an application directly. So. But I will still get somebody from the team to reach out to you too, Kevin. I just want to make sure you've got information on both sides there, just in case. So, okay. Well, I think that's it. I think that's all the Qs and the Q&A, all the questions. Just looking at the chat to see if there's anything else here that we missed.
There were a couple of questions, I think, a little while back. I just wanted to address as quickly as I can because I know we're wrapping up here. Sure. I think it was what programming languages. It was yes, so that was C#. We covered that one. What are your challenges in level designer position for Marzia? Basically, I would say just to summarize that as quickly as possible, it would be communicating with a large group. So I'm in a big company, so I need to communicate ideas between a lot of different people on a regular basis. The other challenge would be making something that's genuinely fun, that everyone thinks is fun. You can't be perfect, but people are going to play your stuff over and over again, find flaws, and then things are going to change artistically or from a different department, and you need to incorporate that into your work as well. So level design is constantly shifting, and you constantly need to stay up to date with everything that needs to be done in the game, and that's delivering the vision, the central vision of that game. And I think the rest we may have actually answered. The rest I've seen is maybe some people have seen.
There was one. What if my goal is to use lidar cameras to recreate indoor-outdoor spaces to create game worlds from the design side? Do you know anything about that, Julian?
Honestly, I've not heard the term lidar cameras. It sounds like, to me, I could be incorrect about this. It sounds like photogrammetry, which I could be wrong about. But if it is about that side of things, that sounds more like an art side. It's not something that is going to probably be as talked about in these programs, because this is more about developing the game on like a broader scale, whereas that's more of a precise, if I'm right about it being photogrammetry for making like textures.
It measures the distance to a target, basically, it says.
Oh, so it's like rate casting in the game.
It's interesting.
Honestly, now that I know what that is, that I've not seen it used personally, so I'm not as familiar with it. There's a version of that within games, but using it to recreate real spaces is a little bit more experimental, but it's certainly not something that's impossible. You'd probably be making something a little more unique if you try doing it that way, like more of an artistic game.
Yeah, and you might even want to lean into a little bit more of the XR world there too. Like there might be some overlap there for you to look at. I know I was talking to somebody years ago that was discussing like a similar sort of idea. And they were going to go a step further too, and they were going to try and access real world weather data and incorporate the real weather conditions in the game that's actually happening outside in that space at the same time. And I thought that was just the coolest concept. So Andrew, if you create a game that's based on a real space and then ends up having the real world weather in it at the same time, make sure you let us know, because I've been waiting for that for years. All right, let me see here. Is there anything else? Oh, something else came up in the questions. will someone work with the work permit to be able to join the boot camp? There's a restriction for education to be less than 6 months. Do you need to have a study permit? I'd say the best thing there, again, is probably the admissions team. They're way more well-versed in this sort of stuff than I am. So they'd be able to kind of let you know if there's any restrictions there in terms of the timing or with study permits. So if you just want to reach out to admissions at circuitstream.ca, or if it's okay, similar to I asked Kevin there, we can just reach out to you afterwards. I'll give the admissions team your email, and we can send you a note afterwards if that's okay. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look in here. I see someone is typing in the chat. Ella, if you did have a question or if you had anything there, maybe send through what you've got now, just so I don't end the session on you right while you're in the middle of typing something. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, sweet. Yeah, I'll make sure that somebody reaches out to you there too. But outside of all of that, just a huge thank you to you guys for joining us here today. Oh, you want to see the dates again if possible? Yeah, I'm so happy I noticed you were typing there. I don't like to skip out on someone when they're looking for info.
No loose ends.
Okay, so the dates, there you go. So those are the upcoming dates. And again, if even after this session here today, guys, if anybody wants any information, if you just go to circuitstream.com, at the very top, there's a section that says adults and youth. Just pick, obviously, the adults for these courses, and then go down to game development or game design. In terms of the start dates, it's actually the same for both for the next two cohorts. But if you scroll down on the website, it'll give you a whole bunch of information on the course, the start dates, pricing, all that kind of stuff too. Yeah, and this session's recorded as well. So you can also check your email inbox by some point tonight, and you'll get a whole recording of the session with all the details. So, but yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining. Thanks for taking the time for all your questions. This was great. Huge thank you to you, Julian, for coming in today and for sharing your knowledge with everybody. I always learn things in these sessions too, but I know based on the amount of feedback and the questions we have here that people certainly learned a lot from you here today too. So huge thank you to you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
And I'll certainly have you back again. I mean, you work with us, you're a part-time instructor, so you're stuck with us anyway, but I'd love to have you back again in the future to do another one of these. So
sure.
Stay tuned. Anybody in the audience, look for Julian's name on future sessions, and we'll have him back again. But outside of that, guys, go to circuitstream.com. There's an events tab at the bottom of the page, and you can click that and kind of see any of the upcoming events that we have over the next few weeks. I'll end this session here today. A huge thank you again to everyone, and we will look forward to seeing you at the next session. All right, everybody have a fantastic Tuesday. Okay. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.